Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. This is going to be the first tutorial of the fall season. And I'm going to be trying something new today. I'm going to be doing a gelx set and I'm going to be using my non-dominant hand. If you've already been following me, you'll know that polygel is the main medium that I use along with just doing press-on nails and more advanced nail art tutorials with that. I'm feeling ready to actually commit to learning gelx, so today we're going to be doing that together, so I hope you enjoy. So as I mentioned, I am using my non-dominant hand today. I am right-handed, but I'll be using my left hand, and I think this is the perfect way for me to test out gelx and how well the set lasts. Plus, I already had my nails done on my left hand. Off with my nail prep, I'm going to be doing pretty much the same nail prep I do for polygel. I'm starting by pushing back the cuticle gently. So I have tried gelx in the past, maybe like 2 or 3 times, mostly back like in 2021, 2022, but it just never really clicked for me. And I was really more so committed to learning polygel, but now I'm ready to try something new and actually master gelx, hopefully. So I applied baby powder to my nails. I like to do this step before using my e-file. It just helps dry everything up and makes it easier to lift up the dead skin. And then I'm using my micro taper bit at a low speed, about 4 to 5 RPMs, and then I'm clipping off the dead skin from there. The baby powder really helps with this. I feel like it really makes it comfortable and easy to do, and it makes it easier to see where the dead skin is. So I just clip off whatever parts I can actually see. I don't like to overdo it, and then I'm going in with a 240 grit sanding band and just using this over the surface of the nail, making sure to get into the corners but still being very gentle. So far I am doing the same exact prep I would do for polygel. This helps remove any remaining cuticle and also just remove the shine from the nail. Now I am measuring out my tips. I am using gelx tips in medium stiletto, and these are sculpted tips. I realized that sculpted tips do fit me better and I like the look of them. Even if there's a little bit more of a gap, they do fit me better than the natural nail tips, and that is something that I used to really struggle with gelx, was just finding nail tips that actually fit me properly, and I think I was not using the right ones, which were natural ones. I also decided to go with a little bit of a shorter length because, again, I haven't done gelx in so long. To me, it's kind of like starting from scratch, and so I went with the medium stiletto, though they were shorter than I expected, so maybe the sculpted tips are a little bit shorter than the natural ones. Next, I took a lint-free wipe with some alcohol just to remove any dust that might be there, and then I'm actually dehydrating with 100% acetone in these swabs. I've been using for my polygel sets and all sets, and 100% acetone seems to be working fine, so I might just keep using this for the time being until I decide if I want to restock on Young Nails Swipe. And now I'm applying my primer, which is Young Nails Protein Bond. I apply it to the entire natural nail and let it air dry. This also helps create an anchor and help with retention. This part did feel a little bit funny because normally I would have my half cover tips already glued on when doing this. And I will be using the new clear rubber base from my brand DTYN. We just released this recently. I used this to adhere the tips and I tested it with the thumb and pinky first off camera. I tried to clean up some excess gel underneath with alcohol under the pinky, and it created a little bit of a stain on the nail tip, but the nail tip itself is perfectly fine. So the way that I'm doing this is I am applying a layer of the rubber base and fully curing it before I apply the gelx tips. You have a little bit of a gap I need to fill in with extra glue with the sculpted tips, so I think this will help, and I think it just creates a little bit of a foundation that makes it easier for the gelx tips to stick to. So I flash cured it under my lamp, and then I'm curing it separately in my full-size lamp for all of the nails. I also did not etch the inside of the tips, so I just am experimenting, and as I'm filming this video, I had this set on for 3 weeks, which I will show at the end of the video, and they lasted perfectly fine. So I'll try out different techniques, but so far what I used in this video did seem to work really well. I think applying a layer of the rubber base and curing it also helps with heat spikes when we go in with that larger bead of gel. As I said, I will be adding a little bit more to fill in any gaps with the sculpted tips. Also, this is the flash cure lamp that I'm using. I got it off Amazon and it's pretty good. I like that it kind of has this automatic sensor, so when I bring my hand in and out, it will be easy to use. I'm still getting used to filming with this setup. So now I'm taking a bead of that rubber base, applying it to the cuticle area. I'm really just guesstimating how much product to put, and then I'm pinching it just to make sure it's kind of at the center and not overflowing the cuticle area, and then I am starting at the middle and then sliding up towards the cuticle. This creates sort of like a vacuum seal so that once you work up towards the cuticle area, there should be hopefully no gel spilling out, and I think it does help with air bubbles. And then I'm sliding it out of the camera to flash cure. Honestly, the hardest part was trying to film it all within frame, so still getting used to that, and I am obviously using my left hand as well, so I think keeping the tip secure once you've got the gel to where you want it to extend to is probably the hardest part. So now we just repeat that step to adhere all the tips. I'm applying that bead of rubber base again at the cuticle area, and then starting at the center to create that seal, going towards the cuticle area, leaving a small gap, and then starting to press down gently. I'm doing this pretty slowly, trying to make sure my hands are stabilized and and just going and slowly working my way to the free edge and trying my best to make sure the gel doesn't spill out or extend beyond the free edge, and trying to hold as still as possible while getting into that flash cure lamp so that we can secure it. And then I'm going to wait until I've adhered all the tips and flash cured them, and then I will do a full cure for 60 seconds in the larger lamp at the end. So the way that I did it is I scrubbed the inside of the tip up to where my natural nail is with a thin layer of the rubber base, and then I'm applying a larger bead at the center and then pinching the tips, and then using the same method that I mentioned of sliding up towards the cuticle area and then working towards the free edge. So to me, that's the hardest part. So that's done. All the tips are adhered and flash cured. So now it's really important that we go and fully cure for 60 seconds in our full-sized lamp. This ensures that the product is actually fully cured. I use a 48-watt reflective lamp, and this is what I would recommend in general for doing nails, whether it's polygel or gelx, to ensure that your product is fully curing. The reflective piece also really helps. It helps the light bounce around. So like for your thumb and pinky, areas that are a little bit more angled, it helps ensure that those parts are fully curing as well. Now it's time for shaping and sealing and blending the cuticle. So I'm taking a 240 grit sanding band and I seasoned it along a hand file just so there's no rough edges, and I'm using it to go over the entire surface of the nail, and I'm also going to be using this to seal the cuticle. So making sure that there's no harsh line where we applied the gelx tip between the cuticle area and where the tip is really important for retention and also just aesthetically for when you're applying your polish. I thought about using a 5-in-1 bit, but I felt it might be a little too rough, and because it's my first time doing gelx in so long, I didn't want to overdo it with overfiling the nail tip or anything like that. I wanted to keep it pretty simple and just see how the gelx set lasts so that I can adjust as needed next time. I also did not use the technique of using acetone on a brush to seal the cuticle or like melt it in a little bit more, but maybe I'll try that next time. So I'm just taking that fine grit sanding band, I'm going over the surface of the nail. I'm not overfiling the surface of the nail at all. I just want to go over it once just to, I mean, there's nothing to smooth out, but I think it does help buff everything out in a way, and I'm gonna buff at the end anyways. Maybe I'm just used to doing this because of polygel. Maybe it's not actually necessary. But the more important part is just using it to blend the cuticle area, and I'm using this at a pretty low speed, about 4 to 5 RPM. Since I am using my non-dominant hand, sometimes it's just easier to use it in certain angles or motions than the other, but this is the motion that I try to use when blending the cuticle area. I try to keep it as parallel as possible to the nail plate and not overfile or keep my file on one area for too long. Now it's time for hand filing. These are pre-shaped tips, so there really isn't a ton to file, but definitely with almond nails, it's nice to go back in and just make sure that the free edge is round, that there's no pieces of plastic sticking out. It's also nice to taper in the sides a little bit as needed or file them down if you ended up using tips that are a little bit bigger. I do believe that even for gelx, if you are in between sizes and one is too big, it's better to apply the larger one and file down as needed. Of course, not getting gel on your skin though. But I definitely tried to keep reminding myself not to overdo it, because with polygel you obviously tend to file more, and for the most part with gelx, the tips are shaped pretty much to perfection. There's usually only just a little bit to refine. If I were doing square nails, I would definitely refine the free edge to be a little bit more crisp and things like that, but I think the medium almond tips, especially the sculpted ones, are pretty good as is. Also just using a 100 over 180 grit hand file, then I'm using the 180 side, which is not too coarse for this because I don't want to leave any rough edges or file away too much. So that's pretty much it for hand filing. I just finished off with a buffer just to make sure I had an ultra smooth and polished finish, because we will be needing to polish the entire nail before we do our nail art. The 240 grit sanding band does definitely help smooth things out, but I think the buffer gives you more of that polished and ultra smooth finish, which makes it easier to do nail art and just polishing over, in my opinion. It's also just very satisfying to do. And then we just need to get rid of all that dust before we apply any polish. So I'm just taking a lint-free wipe and some alcohol and making sure to thoroughly dust both on top and underneath the nail. So for the base color, I wanted to do a soft pink, so I'm going in with a layer of our rosette pane gel polish. This was part of our art glass collection. It's a soft pink, but it has this peachy undertone, and we have two different kinds of jellies. We have crystal clear jellies, and then we have ones that have a little bit more of a softer powdery texture, almost like syrup gel. I'm just going in with one layer of this for the base color. I'm concentrating it more at the center and then working it out to the sides. I'm not too worried about it being super opaque or even perfect necessarily, because I am going to be drawing Frenchies. I also find it helpful to use a liner brush like this when I'm polishing, especially with my left hand. It's easier to polish with this around the cuticle area and just to make sure that everything is leveled out. I also find it easier to start at the center whenever I'm polishing, whether it's my right or left hand, and then work my way up to the cuticle area. It just gives you a little bit more more confidence seeing at least the free edge filled out. One layer of rosette pane I cured, and then I did a little experiment with our Supernova art gel to see how this added to the base, and I really loved the results, so I ended up filming the rest of the nails with this technique. This is like a bubblegum pink art gel, and I'll show you the packaging in a little bit, but this is how it looks with a top coat. So this is the jar that it comes in, and this is a thicker consistency, so you can use it for like nail art and stuff and polishing, but it's also great for ombre designs or just using as like a padding gel. Whenever I do auras and ombres, I actually always use like gel paints and art gels, so they're super versatile. So as you can see, Supernova out of the jar is a classic bubblegum pink, but if you just sponge a little bit over the rosette pane, a little bit goes a long way. It creates a really soft base and balances out that peachy undertone. I think bases like this look really nice with gelx. I mean, it's obviously very trendy. You see a lot of people using padding gels or rubber bases to create that kind of acrylic aesthetic to pair with their gelx nails. It looks really good, especially if you're doing French tip designs. Exactly what I will be doing next. So I am doing cream Frenchies as the base for all 5 nails, and I'm using a 20mm brush just to draw the smile line before filling in the free edge. These are kind of like the old school Frenchies. They're pretty high up with the smile line, so they cover a significant part of the nail, but I think this looks really good with almond, especially for like the medium almond. It kind of gives the illusion of elongating them. But let's talk about this color. So this color is going to be releasing with our Halloween collection, and when I tell you this color is one that I will be using with everything, I already have been. I have been looking for the perfect cream color to add to our product inventory for the longest time. Everybody always talks about having the perfect bright white in their collections and their kits, which, don't get me wrong, super important. We have that coming out as well, but I think having a good quality cream color is just as important. Sometimes you don't need a bright white, you just need like something that's a little bit of an off-white, whether you're mixing it into other things or you're doing character art, or you just want something a little bit more toned down and subtle. So look out for this color in a few weeks with our Halloween collection. Here's some stripes, which I will walk you through again since I'll be repeating the design, but to finish off, I wanted to do an accent design with a simple star. I didn't know what color I wanted to do, so I'm outlining with white first, and stars with your left hand can be tricky. I would say try to get a rough outline in there, cure, and then go back and try to make it more crisp. A longer liner brush definitely helps. This is a 20mm brush. I did end up doing a pink color on top, but later I decided I wanted the entire set to be brown, so I go back and change this later, which is really simple. But at this point in time, I didn't know if I wanted to do some accents in a different color or add more colors to the design or the entire nail set. But for now, I applied this color and I concentrate most of it at the center, and then I work it towards the edges using lighter pressure with my brush before doing a final cure. Then I went ahead and top coated. I do some of the nails one by one, but I am just repeating the same French tip design on the pointer finger with that same cream color. As I mentioned, this French tip is pretty high up, so the easiest way I find to do this with your non-dominant hand is just start working the brush in the motion of the smile line. Don't worry about it being exactly perfect. I fill in the free edge with the rest of the polish. I like to use the actual bottle brush for this, and then I use a liner brush to fill in any small areas. And I think visually just seeing the free edge filled in makes it easier for some reason. I don't know if it's like a mental thing to just go back and clean up the smile line, and you can actually see where you need to refine it. I actually used our art gel brush for that. And then another technique that you can try is just creating a visual point at the center for your smile line and then just drawing directly to that. But as you can see, the brush kind of does the work for us. When I use that flicking motion, it starts to create the curvature that I'm looking for at the center. And then you can also use the brush to fill in the free edge. I just feel like it takes longer, but it's definitely more precise if you're looking to fill in small areas, which can be really nice when using your non-dominant hand. I often go back and forth. I'll fill in the free edge and then see how I want to refine the smile line. I think it is easier to see, like I mentioned, when you actually see the full French tip filled out, you get the full picture of how it looks. And here's how it looks just with the French tips done. So now let's do the pinstripe design. I really love this color combo with the cream and dark brown. I think this is so perfect for fall. Something about it gives me a little bit of a vintage vibe as well. But I'm going in with that same 20mm brush, and I'm just starting to draw these stripes from the smile line of the French tip down to the free edge, and I go over it once or twice. Especially when using my non-dominant hand, this technique really helps because it's harder to get the lines more straight and perfect. It can be a little overwhelming to do it in one go, so sometimes I like to draw it faintly, sketch it out, flash cure it if needed, or just go back over it with a thicker line and build it up that way. And notice how I'm using the tip of my brush. The longer liner brush really helps because the longer bristles help just balance it out and stabilize. And loading up your brush is also really important. You don't want the gel polish pooling up at the end like I showed in that previous clip. You want it to be worked in thoroughly like this to get an even application and a cleaner line. So I'm starting with the light touch just below the smile line and then using the bristles to stabilize stabilize and just dragging down in a straight line to the end. And I am still continuing wrapping my nail brushes. It's really a lot more comfortable for me when filming and doing long painting sessions, especially when I have nails on, but it also just makes the brush more comfortable in general, and I do believe it helps stabilize better, especially when using your non-dominant hand. So I'm just going to finish off this pinstripe design, and then I will come back for the rest of the nail art. So besides the pinstripes, the only design that I'm really doing is a spider at the center. So the easiest way is with a dotting tool. You want to draw 2 dots, make the second one a little bit bigger, and then use your liner brush to make it more elongated or whatever body shape you want the spider to have. I made it quite big just so it covers a lot of the French tip. I find the dotting tool is helpful to get the general shape in there, but then using the liner brush to make it more of an oval shape or more elongated is definitely easier. So I personally like to use the combination of both. For the legs, it's a similar technique to the stripes, but we're just drawing them angled. We're drawing the larger leg at a bigger angle here on the outside, and then we are drawing a similar smaller one right above. You can see I'm sketching it out very faintly and then going back to make it thicker as using the tip of my brush for the most part and using very light pressure. And then we just want to mirror that for the bottom leg, so the outside is longer, and if you mess up or make it too long, you can always wipe away excess with your brush. I'm using our art gel brush to clean that up. You want to leave a little bit of space between the 2 pairs of legs, not too close together because then they kind of blend into each other. And I am reloading my brush and thoroughly distributing the product again as needed to get thinner and crispier lines as I showed before. I definitely learned along the way of my nail art journey that the way the product is loaded up on your brush makes a big difference regardless of what kind of product you're using. Also, sometimes moving too slow when drawing the lines makes them shakier, so sometimes you want to move with a little bit of speed. And that's all I did for the spider design. I went ahead and top coated that to finish off. For a little bit I wasn't sure what I wanted to do on the middle nail, what I really wanted to do with this set, if I wanted to go all out or make it more simple in general, and I definitely ended up going with more simple. I was gonna do a design on the pinky as well, but I decided to leave it as is. I'm glad I did because I feel like the pinstripes alone is a really great design. I did decide to make the star brown though. We don't need to remove anything and we can paint right over the top coat. I just did a lint-free wipe with some alcohol to remove any dust and prep it a little bit. There is no problem with doing this. A lot of artists, including myself, paint over top coat sometimes just because it helps create a smooth surface, especially when you're doing complex nail art like character nail art or things like that. Or you'll see people apply a matte top coat before nail art. It's just easier with that because it's not as reflective or shiny, so it's just a little bit easier to see when painting. But it does not peel, it does not cause any problems with retention as long as the top coat's fully cured. I added a thin, darker brown outline around the star, and then I went ahead and sealed it in with another top coat. Even with the multiple layers, nothing is too bulky, but I do like to do a final file at the end. If there is any top coat or extra layers of polish that pooled over, it just helps make the shape crisp again. Again, this does not break any sort of seal. Your top coat should not chip. We're not actually filing into the sidewalls or the actual gel that we've painted and cured. We're just filing underneath the nail very gently and keeping it very minimal. And once that's done, we get to apply cuticle oil and hydrate everything since we did use quite a bit of dehydration during the process. Just wanted to show you guys this seasonal cuticle oil that I have. I bought this from a mutual of mine, Lorraine. She does like handmade accessories, seasonal cuticle oils, bundles. She does like press-on nails and stuff too. I love buying from her, especially during holiday and seasonal launches. All of her products are really unique and made with care, so I just wanted to show you all that. You can see all the fun charms that this specific cuticle oil came with, and I'll tag her website in the description or on the screen. As I said, she is a small business and she does a bunch of different things, but I try to buy from businesses like hers or other businesses like that when I'm buying cuticle oils and Kindle accessories and things like that. Here's how the full set turned out. My first official gelx set in a very long time and with my non-dominant hand. This is also my first official fall set of the season. Decided to go with something simple and with a more minimal color palette. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the process and my first gelx video. I'm excited to add this into the rotation along with our polygel and nail art tutorials. Here are some videos and photos that I took of this set, and then I wanted to share this set did last me 3 weeks before I decided to take it off, so I'll have a video of that at the end as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video, and keep an eye out for our Halloween collection in the next few weeks.